I'm Corbett Wall with DVAuction, here with your feeder flash for Monday, April the 21st, brought to you in part by Macrocin by Bimeda. Battle bovine respiratory disease with Macrocin, the fast-acting, easy-to-use telithromycin injection that you've come to count on for proven efficacy at an affordable upfront price. For more information, go to macrocin.com. Also, Joplin Regional Stockyards in Carthage, Missouri, expecting only about 3,500 cattle for their sale here, regular feeder cattle sale here today on Monday, starting at 8:30 in the morning. Extremely wet in that part of the country, and so they're going to be hard to get cattle out, and so I expect there will be light receipts all over the middle section of the country this week, or at least early this week, and guys would like to get them in there if they haven't already. I mean, we've been pulling cattle forward, and every place has been too, and I know there's people that would probably like to get their cattle into the sale because they think it's going to be higher, and I think it'll be higher again here today on Monday also. But just a good market there, but really wet. I mean, big rains all throughout the midsection of the country over the weekend, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more. But I've got another primetime livestock video coming up with Joplin Regional Stockyards on Thursday, May the 1st. So if you've got some cattle, load lots, or at least half load lots of cattle that you want to sell them like that, you know, that primetime livestock video is a great place to do it, guys. They've got the buying power. They've got all the contacts there, and you can get them signed up there pretty quick. But they've got that video coming up Thursday, May the 1st, and they'll want to get all those put together at least a week before, I'm sure. But that's at 1 o'clock in the afternoon at Joplin Regional Stockyards. For more information, go to joplinstockyards.com. And of course, you can always watch all of Joplin sales on DVAuction.com. The next 7 Sundays. So you guys have all heard the old wives' tale. My old neighbor that I had for so many years in Missouri, Stacy Flannery, she always said that every year, and it seemed like it always rained on Easter Sunday up there in northwest Missouri. But she says if it rains on Easter Sunday, it's going to rain for the next 7 Sundays. Well, it looks like we're going to be in for a very wet spring. If that old wives' tale comes true, which it's been tested and it doesn't, but it makes us feel good anyway. But huge rains on Easter Sunday. Some of them were Saturday, but I mean, they just come through. We had Easter Sunday morning in the Amarillo area. It was pouring and water standing everywhere. North Texas got big rains over the weekend, all over Oklahoma again. And they just a couple of weeks ago had a really wet weekend there. You get up into eastern Kansas, all over the Flint Hills, where they just got that burnt off, and cattle turned out, and I mean wet. Gosh, you won't be able to drive through there. The green grass will hurt your eyes so bad to look at it. You won't be able to drive up and down the turnpike there. They got rain all over Missouri, just water running everywhere. Going up into Illinois, down into Arkansas, just you talk about $1 million rain. This would be at least several billion-dollar rain, especially with guys, some guys having their planting done in the Midwest, and that rain is, you know, it's just you can't put a price on it. And we've got graze out wheat that needed to drink. It's just fantastic. You've got to have April showers to bring May flowers. And a lot of places we're needing a good drink. Some places out west are still needing a big drink, but man, the midsection, a lot of the southeast and up into the Midwest there, really got some good rains over the weekend, and that is fantastic. So we're really happy about that. Everything is so positive right now. Didn't have a lot of sales over the weekend or late last Friday or over the weekend, but my gosh, the ones that they did have were just unbelievable. I told you guys I went out to northern Nevada to Nevada Livestock Marketing in Fallon. I go out on the specials monthly whenever I can and help auctioneer out there, and it was the most fun I've had auctioneering. And John Hangar, my old buddy that I sell with out there, we were visiting about that after the sale. It's unbelievable. And he said that he thought it was more fun, or he enjoyed it better than sex. Now, I wasn't going to go quite that far, but he said it's just, and I know exactly what he's talking about. And I'm not just talking about the prices. I'm talking about the trade activity. Now, federal state market reporters a lot of times will mention trade activity, but most of them probably don't really understand what they're talking about. And most of them will say trade active, demand good. But when you've got some cattle, they run some cattle under you, and they're green stalker type cattle, and you start selling them, you know, and you're kind of looking at what you're doing there, and you start them, and about the time you start them, you think, oh gosh, I started those way too high. And then you look up at the crowd, and you got two guys thumbing in, and another guy beating buyer's cards on his knee like he's got a herd of ticks coming up his pant leg or something. You couldn't screw up. You just dig right in and just take off. And that just doesn't happen very often. And my friend John Hangar, he's been doing auctioneering, I think, since he got back from fighting in Vietnam. So he's been doing it for a long time. And I've never had that kind of active trade. And the sales all over the country are seeing that right now, guys. It's just one that I was involved in. If you guys are usually listening to this and you know what's going on, but you haven't been to the sale for a while, it's wet around, go to the sale and just watch. It's just a beautiful thing to watch. And we would have never gotten to these kind of price levels without auctions. You know, how would you have even had the gall to ask at any point what some of these cattle are bringing into sale barns to ask that for them in the country? Of course, once it happens in the sale barns, then that establishes a market. But it's just it's a wonderful thing. That's why I like auctions so much. But you know, you just don't get to see that kind of thing happen very often. That active, and like I said, it was. I've been to some good sales, sold some good sales, but it was the most active I've ever been a part of, and it was just, you know, you just it's like going fishing. And you just flop it out there and start reeling them in. You don't get to do that very often in your life. For me, maybe years back, a few times at the Wind Placer Show in Ruidoso, New Mexico, on a holiday weekend or something like that. But it's not that good hardly ever. And it's so much fun to be involved in that and get to do some of that. And I know you guys know what I'm talking about that are seeing that, but it doesn't happen very often. Your fat cattle trade really picked up late in the week. We don't know what traded on Friday. Don't have any market reports coming out of there, but the cattle were trading quite a bit higher, sharply higher, the fat cattle on a direct basis, right about the time that the cattle and feed report come out. Of course, it come out, and depending on how you look at it, if you got under a magnifying glass, you might could call it a little bit bearish, but nobody's going to do that. Not the way things are. And I think nobody's going to pay no attention to that as we start the week here on Monday. This thing is just going to keep flying. I talked to a friend of mine up in the Northern Plains. They were trying to buy his fat cattle after the report on Thursday, and he said he really didn't want to do it on Friday, but he would sell them on Friday. Then they were offering him $214 for his fats late Thursday, and he said I'll take $215 or I'll take $220 next week. And that's the way you got to do them, guys. And they said, well, let me call in. You know, it's like buying a new pickup. You gotta talk to the manager somewhere back behind. But it's just everything's coming up roses right now, and we don't, you know, we got over that little blurb there whenever the whole country was freaking out about President Trump doing his job. But that's kind of behind us now, and we're just going forward. And this market is hot, 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 guys. But you talk about your board for last week. April live cattle futures. Monday was up $1.47. Tuesday was up 85. Wednesday was up 227. Thursday up 275. You're noticing a trend here, and it's all straight up. Then Friday closed for Good Friday, but your April live cattle futures ended the week at 209.87. January ended the week at 204.07. Feeder cattle, April feeder cattle, and they were up big there late in the week, chasing that index down, because the index really jumped there late in the week on your CME cash feeder cattle index. But Monday, April feeder cattle were up 287, Tuesday up 132, Wednesday up 57, Thursday up 340, and your April feeder cattle ended the week at 293.35. May is quite a ways back from there at 286.85, but that's just the next month, so we don't have to wait for a bastard month, at least on our feeder cattle. We always have every other month in the live cattle pits. But May corn ended the week at 482.25. Soybeans for May 1036.5, and hard red winter wheat for May ended the week at 557.5. Talk about your fat cattle trade up through Thursday, and we had quite a bit of trade on Thursday, 52,200 head. And your live prices of fat steers and heifers ranged from 208 to 215 negotiated cash in your 5-area feeding region. That was $4 to $6 higher. Weighted average on live steers 211.60 in the 5-area. That was up 390 from the end of the previous week. Your dress sales range from 332 to 345. That'd be $7 to $15 higher. Weighted average on dress steers 336.83. That was up nearly $9 from the previous week. Of course, they really whacked it that previous week when they had the opportunity to do that. But we don't know how much traded on Friday, so I'm looking forward to the wrap-up report here with the stuff coming in through mandatory price reporting for Friday, and then we'll see how much we did, see if we did much more business or if everything just kind of settled down on Good Friday. But box beef cutout values were lower last week. Your weighted average on all of last week's choice cut sales 333.80. That was down 299 from the previous week's weighted average. And your late choice sales Friday afternoon were down about another $2.30 at 331.52. Weighted average on all of select cuts last week 315.48, down 270. But your weighted average, or your price for the end of the week on Friday afternoon was just about steady with the weighted average, so we didn't lose any more ground on that. But choice select spread on the weighted average last week was $18.32. All that information on 606 loads of cuts, grinds, and trimmings. Your slaughter 576,000 for last week. Estimated cattle slaughter under 600, so it's light. It was 12,000 bigger than the previous week, which was extra light, but 42,000 head less than the previous year, same week previous year. So they've cut this slaughter down to nearly nothing. But we're getting right in the heat of the grilling time. They're going to need that product. What are they going to do? They're going to get short bought like they've been, and they're going to get desperate like they've been, and we're just going to keep pouring the gas on them, guys. You talk about your feeder cattle market, brought to you by Specialty Risk Insurance, working to protect your livelihood. Your real-time index on DVAuction, based on an 800-pound cash auction steer up through your middle 12 states, ended the week at 290.64. That was up 461. Your latest CME cash feeder cattle index, the one that settles with your April board there, 293.57. Your cash feeder trends in your sale barns last week, feeder cattle going right into the feedlot, $4 to $10 higher, pretty well across the country. Stockers $10 to $25 higher. Talk about some of your sales. The sale I was talking about earlier, Nevada Livestock Marketing in Fallon, Nevada. I was glad that Jack Payne had me come out there because it ended up being a lot of fun. That 2,100 head for their monthly feeder special. And you look at this market report they put out, as your 3-weight steers averaged 471 with a top price of $512. My gosh, you think some of these are just unbelievable quotes. Your 4-weight steers had an average price of $414 with the high quote, and the 4-weight steers of $463. 5-weight steers averaged $358 with the top price of $405. 6 weights averaged $327 with a top price of $345, and 7-weight steers in northern Nevada, Fallon averaged $309 with a weighted average, or with a top price of $335. Look at some heifers, and they were probably the most impressive. They like to turn those heifers out in California, guys, and those guys were very aggressive. 3-weight heifers averaged $422 with the top price of $470. 4-weight heifers averaged $392 with the top price of $425. 5-weight heifers averaged $341 with the top price of $379. And 6-weight heifers averaged $294 with a top price of $320. Stick out deal here that you see that was fun to sell. They had some reds and chars come in there, and I mean green condition on them, ready to turn out, had it all. Stretchy kind, get big, and they were heifers. I couldn't call the quality fancy, but the condition was out of this world, and the performance that these cattle will put on will be out of this world. But 58 of these stocker heifers weighed 472 and bring 370. So that was the top price on your 4-weight heifers there at Nevada Livestock Marketing. It wasn't on 1 or 2 head, it was on 58 of them. Some other top quotes from all around. How about Winter Livestock Auction in Winter, South Dakota? Sold replacement quality heifers there. They had a special there. 78 heifers weighed 711 at $313.50. Thought that was awfully good. But the most impressive quote that I saw anywhere late last week or over the weekend, and your Macrocin, no BS, top quote for the day, come out of Crawford, Nebraska, Crawford Livestock Marketing. My friends Rich and Alicia Robertson there do such a good job. They had kind of a special there, had about 3,200 head, had a couple of world champion livestock auctioneers there. And they sold, I'm showing you one swath of them, but they had 122 steers, weighed 962, bring 289. Wow. And that's your feeder flash for Monday.